Indonesia is possibly one of the most overlooked nations on the planet. It has the fourth most amount of people and is still growing. Yet many people in Western nations completely forget about it altogether. It's not like India, where its amount of people is so mind-blowing it's forced into relevancy, nor is it like Vietnam, industrializing quickly to become a factory of the world. Yet with rates of population growth expecting to pass the United States within a few decades, it's time we should start paying attention. After all, this area has historically been one of the richest in the world, with the Majapahids being one of the most powerful forces in the region, but some major drawbacks are obvious. Firstly, this one island Java holds more people on it than the entirety of Russia, making it one of the most crowded areas on the planet. Secondly, Indonesia sits dead on the Ring of Fire. Natural disasters are not an unusual thing for the country to deal with. These are some reasons why since the 1950s, Indonesia has proposed 9 different capital locations away from its current capital, Jakarta. 10th tries the charm though, because finally in 2019 the Indonesian government, spearheaded by Joko Widodo, said that it would no longer operate out of Jakarta, announcing a move to their capital. The new capital will be named Nagara Rimba Nusa, and its location was chosen to be in Eastern Borneo. Firstly, demographics. It's not a surprise that Jakarta is one of the most crowded cities on Earth. It's estimated that $7 billion are lost annually just due to traffic jams. The island of Java is so incredibly densely populated. It also happens to be filled with jungle, mountains, and 45 active volcanoes, so the whole island isn't even habitable, making it even more crowded. 62% of Indonesians live on only 7% of the land. This urban landscape makes Java's fertility rates much lower than the rest of the nations, about 2.0 compared to over 3 in West Papua, Maluku, and Sulawesi. Sure, having less children born in Java probably has a lot more pros than cons at this moment in history, but that means the 62% 7% split will shrink by a lot in the coming years. Indonesia has already experimented with relocating people from Java to the other islands in the 1970s until 1998. It had mixed results, with some conflicts coming out of mixing the different ethnic groups together. And speaking of ethnic groups, Indonesia has a lot. Like a lot. Indonesia's geography is greatly to blame. A bunch of unconnected islands separated by hundreds of kilometers of oceans aren't exactly going to form a shared culture. Resulting from this, there are over 1,300 ethnic groups in the country, although 42% of the population identifies as Javanese. Different ethnic groups means different languages too, and Indonesia has a lot. 737 different languages, 270 alone just in West New Guinea, which only has a population of about 4 million. The new capital will try to solve this by being in a much more central location and not centered around Javanese civilization. Indonesia hopes to keep the various groups together and by reminding them they are Indonesian. It also helps decentralize the government around Java, giving better autonomy to its further away lands. Nigeria did this exact move in 1991 with the same reasons. However, they only had to deal with 8 major ethnic groups, not literally hundreds. Second, nature is another huge reason to move the capital. Jakarta is not only Indonesia's capital, it's their business, finance, trade, and services center too, just because so many people live on Java. Being in the Ring of Fire, natural disasters are not uncommon. Earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcano eruptions happen often enough for a great concern to be made about a capital's location. As it is right now, Indonesia's capital is in too vulnerable of a position. The most recent was a flood at the very start of 2020, which caused 31,000 people to be evacuated from the city. But natural disasters are not the only natural concern. Climate change is a very serious threat to Java, more so than other places in Indonesia due to its flatness and its density. Currently, Jakarta sits on some very swampy land. The city is sinking as fast as 25 centimeters per year, which is much faster than the preferred rate for a city, 0. This means that nearly half of the city now sits below sea level. Any slight rising of the sea level can be devastating for Jakarta. A lot more than 31,000 people will have to be evacuated next time the city floods. In a few decades, large portions of Jakarta will be underwater, and the government wants to get out now. So how is Nagara Rimba Nusa's location? The area was chosen for its lack of earthquakes and volcanoes. What is a concern, however, is deforestation and forest fires. Deforestation is already a major concern on Borneo, and palm oil and timber productions have already stripped Borneo of over half of its forests. Many species have become endangered, like native elephants and orangutans. Wildfires obviously don't help as well, and in 2015, Borneo had one of the worst fires in its history. These will only become more common as climate change gets worse. Geologists have also identified potential tsunami risks by studying ancient underwater landslides in the region. But hey, it's still better than Jakarta. Good reasons why they're moving. Now, when can I actually live in it? Well, in 2019, Joko announced a 10-year transfer period to change to the new location. An area in East Kalimantan was chosen, and construction has yet to start. As of January 2021, it is still waiting for parliamentary approval. Another issue has come up recently too. They've decided to start construction after their COVID-19 vaccination campaign ends, hopefully in March 2022. They were the hardest hit Southeast Asian nation. The government had originally hoped to populate the city in 2024, yet after the COVID shakeup, it's very unlikely to be ready by then. Monetarily, the new capital has a price tag of about $33 billion US, which should be much easier to get than before, after Indonesia's GDP skyrocketed since the 2000s. Designers, contractors, and planners from the United States, China, and Japan are all helping in the capital design and construction process. Each country is likely hoping to boost their relationship with Indonesia in the process. And speaking of design, of course it will be designed as a smart and green city, which could bring over 1 million jobs to Nagara Rimba Nusa. Planned capitals do not often get the best reputation. They're often built for efficiency, lacking human quirks that make it a fun city. If we look at Brazil, we can see exactly what I mean. Brazil had a similar situation. Too many people were crowded on the coast and not enough people were moving inland. To balance out the population divide, Brazil built a new capital, Brasilia, to move there from Rio de Janeiro in 1960. Rio de Janeiro is just flat out a much more fun city with loads of culture, life, and tourist destinations. Sure, Brasilia likely has some nice things to do and see, but it is stereotypically known for being a boring government city. It was planned out perfectly. In theory, it should be an amazing city to live in, yet without that culture and fun, it never had the human aspect. It succeeded as a place for government, but failed as a place to live. Similarly, in 1966, Pakistan moved from its largest city, Karachi, to Islamabad. Islamabad is considered quite peaceful compared to the rest of Pakistan, only having a population of 1 million in a nation of over 200 million. It's built in nice nature with beautiful hills with Islamic architecture in mind. Brasilia doesn't have this. It was built as a modern city on a plain. Islamabad succeeded because it captures more of a human aspect than Brasilia did. So which route will Nagara Rimba Nusa take? Hopefully the latter and escape from the 150 million inhabitants of Java, or will it end up being a dead government city stuck in bureaucracy? The Indonesian capital change is finally happening after 70 years of proposals. Indonesia's geography was and still is the reason for all of those capital suggestions. From being made up of thousands of islands creating hundreds of different ethnic groups and languages, to being situated on a tectonic plate creating natural disaster after disaster, of course some people are going to suggest moving the capital. With an end date by the end of the decade, hopefully it can avoid some of the other boring capital's problems. Will this new capital symbolize a new age of Indonesia, becoming an industrial power and harnessing its huge population to produce the world's goods? Or will this new capital just be a chance to get away from stinky air and traffic jams? If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and change your status to subscribed. You can always unsubscribe later and it really helps. Thank you so much for watching.